Jamison Perry was co-founded in 2015 by myself and Jermaine Jamison. After we spent years working together at a global staffing firm, we recognized a need to change the perception of external recruiters, and we decided to bet on ourselves to create that change. Our goal is to build a recruiting organization devoted to providing a candidate and client experience that displays our passion for helping others, commitment to transparency, and dedication to creating long-lasting partnerships while never compromising integrity. We have offices in Las Vegas and Kansas City. We believe in the power of two-way advocacy and maximizing every opportunity, whether big or small, where our candidates and client partners allow us to be a part of their journey. We value, respect, and appreciate the trust we earn from our candidates and clients. Therefore, an experience that represents our active listening skills, diligence, grace, and humility should be expected and is guaranteed. As a candidate, if you measure the value of a recruiter based on how quickly you receive an interview request, we are not the right fit. When candidates and organizations partner with Jamison Perry, both will receive a customized experience that is not rushed. We operate at a speed that allows us to offer the first-class candidate and client experience we would expect if the roles were reversed. Jamison Perry is one of many recruiting agencies out there. I'll be the first to tell you, if you can establish a great relationship with multiple recruiters, you should. My competitors will have access to opportunities I might not. Either way, recruiters in general will have access to positions you don't see posted. Pre-COVID, it was not uncommon for a job posting to receive 250 applicants. Many companies don't have the bandwidth to go through all of those applicants and may opt to never post an opportunity. Additionally, finding a recruiter to work with gives you another advocate in the market for your job search. Imagine the influx of candidates in the market as a result of the pandemic. Creating a relationship with a recruiter can help you get your resume to the top of that list. When I present candidates to clients, I present my top 3 candidates, and each candidate gets an interview with my client. Based on the relationship I have established with my clients, they interview all of my candidates almost 100% of the time. Partnering with a recruiter gives you access to additional opportunities. It also gives you access to the recruiter's market knowledge and expertise regarding salary negotiations, interviewing, growth opportunities with a company, and more. A great recruiter can help you position yourself to be successful throughout the entire hiring process. If you establish a solid connection with recruiters, you could also gain access to their network. For me personally, if I can't place someone, I'm almost always willing to take a look at my network and see if I can facilitate a beneficial introduction. You're new to the job market. You've probably never worked with a recruiter. So what exactly does working with a recruiter look like? And what do you need to know to be successful? Not all recruiters are created equal. Recruiters support different clients, have different processes, partner with candidates differently. You should evaluate each recruiter you talk to and determine if they are a good fit for you. Recruiters are busy these days. Lots of companies are still hiring, and there are tons of candidates in the job market. Be mindful of their time. If you schedule an appointment, keep it. Follow through on your commitments. If you no-call, no-show a recruiter, they are likely to remember and not want to present you for opportunities. Be honest about working with other recruiters. Sometimes companies work with multiple recruiters. You don't want to be submitted for the same position by 2 different companies. Know how the recruiter prefers to communicate. They may be able to get back to you faster via email than a phone call if they are on the phone all day. Be sure to track where you are applying. No recruiter wants to go through all the steps to present you, only to be told by their client that you applied 2 weeks ago. Introduce the recruiter to great referrals if you know others that are looking. And stay connected even after you find a job. You never know when the relationship will come in handy again. There are 3 types of opportunities available through most staffing agencies. Contract. Contract roles are often temporary, perhaps to cover an influx in workload or a leave of absence. When you work in a contract role, you could have limited benefit options through the employer. You'll want to consider if you need independent coverage, have access to coverage elsewhere, or if the limited options are sufficient. This is a great way to gain experience. Contract to hire. This starts out like contract that I just mentioned. The goal is that you are in a contract role for 3 to 6 months while you and the company can determine if it's a good fit. Their goal is to hire you on after a period of time. The same benefit considerations apply to the period you'd be on contract. This is a great way to get your foot in the door. And direct hire. This is when a recruiter will work with a company to find the right candidate, and once the person is found, the company hires that person from day one. That gives you access to the benefits available at that company. This is the best way to access full benefits from day one. Consider the different models and even discuss them with a recruiter to figure out which models will be the best fit for you. When you work with a recruiter, it doesn't take the place of your own efforts in your job search. And it's impossible to talk about looking for a job without talking about technology. Technology has changed the entire recruitment and job search process for better or worse. Technology has made it easier for job seekers to apply for opportunities and for companies to find job seekers. Instead of searching through the classifieds and faxing in your resume, everything can be at your fingertips in mere moments through your cell phone and computer. On the flip side, companies have automated many steps in the hiring process which require less human interaction to screen candidates. It eliminates portions of the hiring process where relationships are built with candidates and where candidates can get a better feel for the company, people, and role before investing lots of time. It can also take away the validation you get knowing your resume made it past the first stage. Losing the human touch can cause you to feel isolated in your job search. In the next few slides, I'll give you a closer look at how to navigate technology in your search. It's important to understand you could have limited success in your search because of things you don't know to factor in. If you apply for lots of positions and don't hear back, this could be the result of an ATS, an applicant tracking system. An ATS is a software tool that conducts automated resume screening through an algorithm. The algorithm compares your resume to the requirements put in the system for the open position. And if your resume doesn't have a high enough score, it may never be seen by a real person. You'll get an automated thanks, but no thanks email. While that may seem unfair, it's important to understand why employers use an ATS. Remember earlier when I mentioned a job posting could garner 250 applications? Many companies just can't justify the time it takes to go through that many resumes. Screening candidates without an ATS can feel next to impossible for employers. So remember, if you're applying for a position online, it's likely that your resume will go into an ATS, and the person on the other end is just trying to do their job as efficiently as possible. So what exactly does all of this mean for your resume? Your resume needs to be written in a format that is easily read by an ATS. Often, people think that they need to find a way for their resume to aesthetically stand out. Many applicant tracking systems aren't capable of reading multi-column layouts. So those fancy-looking resumes might look great, but half of your content could be missed or misinterpreted if your resume goes through an ATS. Your resume should be searchable and highlightable. I recommend you use a PDF version of your resume that is created in either Word or Google Docs. If you use a tool like Photoshop to create your resume, the text may not be highlightable, leaving you with missed data in an ATS. And to make sure your resume gets uploaded correctly into an ATS, you want to use a standard font. You also want to make sure there are no images and tables, as those don't translate to most applicant tracking systems. Another way technology has impacted job searching today is through the emergence of LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn profile is as important as your resume. Let me say that again. Your LinkedIn profile is as important as your resume. Did you know that recruiters use a version of LinkedIn called LinkedIn Recruiter? This version allows us to use LinkedIn basically as a search engine. If I'm helping a client find a social media specialist, I can search for that job title, add in a location, a certain number of years of experience, and select people that are open to new opportunities. I'm now looking at people that fit the general qualifications of what my client is looking for, and I know they are open to new opportunities, which means they are more likely to get back to me. But if you're targeting social media roles in the area without an updated profile, you might not pull in that search, or you'll populate lower in my search results. There are simple things you can do to make sure your profile is pulling up in search results for opportunities you'd be interested in. Your headline is an opportunity to capture someone's attention. If you're just listing your job title, it's a missed opportunity. The ideal length for a headline is 13 words and 98 characters. Your summary should be 200 to 300 words. This is a great place to highlight skills and measurable accomplishments. It's also a great place to showcase a bit of your personality, just keep it professional. Your experience should include keywords describing your work. The more industry-specific keywords you have, the higher you'll be in search rankings. It is perfectly acceptable to highlight internships, even if they weren't paid. Your education should include degrees, certifications, and any special courses you've taken. Think of this as an expanded section of your educational background from your resume. This is where you can highlight specific courses that don't go on your resume. Your profile picture should be a professional headshot. Profiles without a picture show up lower in search results. And a pandemic is no reason to not get a headshot. There are photographers out there now doing virtual headshots. If you're in the market, you should spend time regularly on LinkedIn. Another way technology plays a role in how companies hire are assessments. Many companies use pre-employment assessments to validate a candidate's skills and experience. Beyond understanding that it helps you look good to a potential employer, it's important to understand that assessments can be an arm of an ATS. It is possible for companies to create an auto response when you apply to a position that sends you pre-employment testing. The results of those tests can determine if your resume is sent on for a person to look at. If you don't complete the assessments, you're just hanging out in a bucket in the system somewhere, not having your resume reviewed. As an example, let's say you apply to my company for an administrative position. Your resume is screened by my ATS and deemed to be a match. Then you receive an automated email response thanking you for applying and saying that I'd like you to complete some assessments to show your proficiency in Microsoft Outlook. That email includes a link for you to complete the assessments. On the back end, I've said people must score an 80% or higher to move forward. If you score a 79%, you get an email saying, thanks for completing the testing, but we've moved forward with other candidates. My system moves you automatically to a bucket where you aren't being considered and I never see your resume. This is also a reason to not ignore assessment requests and to monitor your junk email carefully. Say my system sends you the testing, but you never see the email, that means I never see your resume. There are also ways for you to be proactive with assessments. There are platforms that will allow you to take assessments for free to highlight and validate your skills. So when a hiring manager or recruiter sees your resume or profile, they can see assessment results. There are a couple of places you can do this. LinkedIn. If you go to your LinkedIn profile and then go to the skills section, you'll see a place where you can take assessments. If you score a 70% or higher, you'll be able to highlight the results on your profile. If you don't, the results will remain unseen. Indeed, if you go to your resume page and scroll to the bottom, you'll see the assessment section. Employers can actually sort their search results by who has completed certain assessments. As you may have limited experience in your field, assessments can be a huge value add to your profile on either platform. If a recruiter is on the fence about calling you and then they see you scored well on a relevant assessment, that can push them over the edge to give you a call or potentially move you up in the list of people to call for an opportunity. And further along in the hiring process, interviews have changed as a result of technology as well. You can find tons of tips on remote interviews, but the tips I recommend the most are: choose your location wisely. While most people understand we are living in a time of your dog barking or background noise or that Amazon package getting delivered, if you have an interview, do your absolute best to choose a location that is distraction-free and remove as much background noise as possible. Consider the background. Even if you don't have a dedicated space for work in your home, you should give the impression that you can create a space where work can be done. Check your video, sound, and lighting quality before the interview. Wear the right attire. While it might be tempting to keep your yoga pants on because it's just your top they can see, wearing the right attire helps you put yourself in the right mindset. Be ready 10 minutes early. This gives you a chance to give everything a once-over and take a few deep breaths before you start. Have a paper copy of your resume handy. Limit the number of windows you have open so your computer doesn't freeze, and use a paper copy of your resume to refer to so no matter what your computer does, you have your resume handy. Another ATS compatible trend that is catching on are one-way interviews. If you haven't noticed a theme with all things ATS, it's saving time in the hiring process. In an effort to get to know top candidates quickly to see who they want to interview in person, companies are using tools like Spark Hire to have one-way interviews. With a tool like this, you would receive an email with a link and some questions. You would then use the link to self-record answers to the questions from the company. This allows companies a chance to evaluate your timeliness, ability to follow instructions, your communication skills, and the actual answers to your questions, all in a fraction of the time it normally takes to interview. As you start your career, resume advice is slightly different than what you would hear if you were a seasoned professional. Here are 10 of the most important tips to consider with your resume. Use a professional-looking email. Many people create an email just associated with their job search. Include a link to your LinkedIn profile. Your professional summary may be short, 3 to 4 sentences, but make sure it contains information that adds value. Highlight hard and soft skills in your summary. Think about the keywords associated with the job you want. Are those keywords prevalent in your resume? You've finished your degree. You don't need to list your high school diploma. If you have a great GPA, include it. This is not a place to list every class you've ever taken. Use bullet points where possible. Resumes written in paragraph form are difficult to read and often get passed over. Focus on skills you've learned in school that translate to your target position. Even if you don't have experience, you have learned skills and knowledge to highlight. If you have worked in one position relevant to what you are targeting and 2 positions that aren't, it is okay to separate those. Create a section that has relevant experience higher in your resume and a section for additional experience lower in your resume. Use action verbs to describe your experience. You want to paint a picture of experience you have for the person reading your resume. If they can visualize it, your resume will resonate longer. Almost 80% of jobs are found through a connection and not through a job posting. This means you will be far more successful in your search if you are actively spending time on things outside of just applying to positions. Build your network. Sometimes college students and recent grads don't realize one of the most important things you can do for your job search is networking. Obviously, networking has changed amidst a pandemic, but it's still happening. I recommend you find 2 or 3 virtual networking opportunities a month while you're looking for a position. And even when you land in a position, keep networking. When you go to networking events, set a goal to connect with 3 to 5 new people and actually follow up with them after the event. Use technology and use it to your advantage. There has been a trend during the pandemic. People on LinkedIn are posting and asking how they can help former peers and people in their network find a new opportunity. They are willing to share information, make introductions, and offer recommendations. Become more active on LinkedIn. Engage with people's posts. A share, like, or comment can go a long way. And the more active you are, the more you're in other people's feeds and the more top of mind you become. Set a daily goal to engage with 3 to 5 posts. Make sure that the engagement is genuine. Find a great recruiter to work with. Recruiters connect with candidates every day. And maybe today they don't have your ideal position open, but tomorrow they could. Finding a great recruiter to connect with and then touching base every couple of weeks means you've got someone else in the market advocating for you, opening the door to opportunities that may never be posted. Be deliberate in your approach to creating value for other people. When you add new people to your network, think first if there is a way for you to help them accomplish something they are working towards. This creates a 2-way relationship and they will instinctively want to help you in return. A great example, candidates that I work with that I haven't had an opportunity for yet, ones that take the time to share an opening I post on social media, immediately stand out in my memory. Even though we didn't have a conversation, that is basically another touch point for the candidate with me. As I mentioned earlier, Jamison Perry is one of many recruiting agencies in Vegas. We may not be a fit for everyone, so do your homework on other agencies. You could be a fit to partner with us if you're looking for an opportunity in one of these areas: accounting and finance, customer service, engineering, human resources, IT, marketing and creative, healthcare, gaming, and sales. If this aligns to where you want to go with your career, we'd be happy to set up a time to chat with you. So what steps can you take today? Create targets for expanding your network. Think about who you can connect with on LinkedIn. Set a goal for interacting with people on LinkedIn. Send me a copy of your resume. You have great resume resources available through Career Services. If I see an opportunity for improvement, I'll let you know and give you a couple of tips to help you update it. Connect with me on LinkedIn and follow Jamison Perry. I'm happy to see if there are solid connections in my network for you. And when you follow Jamison Perry, you get access to content we post that will help you with your job search. Find 3 online networking events. If you aren't sure where to look for networking events, send me a note and I'll do my best to offer a couple of recommendations. And find 3 new people to network with each week. This could be through networking events or other people offering introductions. And now I'd love to take questions.
Great, thanks, Katie. For those of you that are in attendance, feel free, if you have any questions, to type them in the chat. Feel free to also unmute yourself if you'd like to verbally ask. Either or is fine. Okay, so there is a few questions, or there's 2 questions. So one question is, what is a networking event? And I'd also like to piggyback off that too and ask, how can students or alumni find online networking events that you were mentioning, Katie?
So I would recommend finding community calendars. You can look through Chamber of Commerce websites and community organizations. And a lot of them will have calendars where different networking groups post different events that they're having. You can also look for events on LinkedIn. So there's now a feature for events where companies and networking organizations can post the events on LinkedIn. A lot of organizations will also post networking events on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. And you had asked what is a networking event?
Yeah.
So that varies. I think that definition can be kind of broad. But right now with online networking events, I'm finding a lot of organizations are doing kind of buckets of speed networking and breakout rooms. So everybody would join a big Zoom room, and then they randomize people into breakout rooms. So then, you might see 4, 5, 6 people in a breakout room, and you would be able to introduce yourself, ask some different questions. People may ask you questions about what you're looking for. It's just sort of like a small meet and greet. And then what I'm seeing is people will do multiple rounds of those kind of random breakout rooms.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm glad that you mentioned networking, because networking is key to helping make those connections and learn about opportunities. So another question is, well, one question was they wanted to ask if they could put your contact information in the chat box. I just did that for you, Katie.
Thank you.
So Stephanie, you have Katie's contact information there. Another question is let me see here. What would an initial meeting with a recruiter look like?
So this will vary a lot. So in the presentation where I talked about not all recruiters being equal, it really depends on the agency, the types of things they recruit for. I can tell you what an initial conversation might look like with me. When I'm working with a new candidate, I set up typically a 15-minute introductory phone call. And in that call, I want to get an idea of what somebody is looking for in an opportunity and take a look at their resume. Once I have an idea of kind of the framework of what they're looking for, then that tells me kind of the direction to go with the candidate, and then I can specify identify what makes sense. Is it an introduction to someone in my network, or is it a more in-depth interview where we really dig into, your skill set, the work that you've done? So typically it's a 15-minute introductory call so I can figure out where to go from there.
Great, thank you. And it looks like we have one more question. And that question is, do recruiters look for people with specific majors?
Yes. So different firms will target differently. So Robert Half is one of my competitors, and they're a really good example. They target heavily in the accounting and finance space. So they are probably going to look at people that have, accounting, finance, economics, those types of degrees. But then you'll also see agencies out there that have recruiters that kind of run the gamut. And so they may not look specifically for 1 or 2 degree programs.
All right, thank you. I think that's it for the questions. If you do have any final questions, now is your last chance to submit those. And do know that we will also send the copy of the slide deck to all the attendees as well today. Thank you so much, Katie, for being on with us. It does look like that is the end of the questions. I don't see any new ones coming in. But we definitely appreciate your time, and thank you for presenting today.
Thanks,